Well, after the Brexit, global markets did take a tumble, including London's FTSE. Now adding insult to injury, Moody's has lowered the UK's credit outlook from stable to negative. Now, to put the economic fallout into perspective, let's look at the numbers behind the UK's place in Europe. Now, EU countries invested more than $700 billion in the United Kingdom in 2014. That's almost half of the total investment, according to official figures. 45% of the UK's exports go to other EU states, while 53% of the UK's imports come from within the European Union. European Union citizens have the right to live in the UK, and an estimated 3 million are doing so. But on the flip side, are only 1.3 million UK citizens living in other EU states. The United Kingdom is a net contributor to the EU budget, paying around $14 billion more than it received last year. Well, CNN Money Europe editor Lynda dos Santos joins us now from London. Nina, firstly, looking at the Moody's credit rating, what does that mean for the people in the UK?
Well, it's the first sign of the economic hangover, to just play off of what Nemra El-Baghi was telling you about before outside number 10 Downing Street. This was largely expected by many people on the markets. Already we'd had various warnings coming from a number of credit ratings agencies that the UK's credit rating could be put on negative watch. It has been put on negative watch by Moody's now. And what's significant about that is that actually there's another credit rating agency that has the UK's credit rating on one notch higher, coveted AAA credit. And that is Standard & Poor's. And they were reported as saying on Friday that the AAA rating for the UK was quote-unquote untenable after the UK's decision to vote in favour of a Brexit. What this means is that it's going to get a bit more expensive for the UK to continue to borrow on the international markets, and it was already getting more expensive as the pound was tumbling on Friday. The real problem for the UK here is that what people are concerned about is that this could cause a dent in consumer confidence, a dent in confidence to deter all those investments you were talking about that come from the EU, Lynda, into the UK. And that's where the economic prospects of the UK could start to unravel here. That is one of the fears. But it could take a number of years before any kind of reality like that could transpire, not least because the UK may have voted to decide to leave the EU. But as you just heard there, it hasn't by any means filed the paperwork to get that process going.
Yeah, that will certainly take some time. But in the short term, the pound, as you mentioned, has been slammed down to its lowest level in 30 years. Could it continue to drop?
Yeah, of course it could continue to drop from here. It all depends on what comes out of these kind of meetings. And we'll get an indication of how Europe is planning to respond. You heard the foreign ministers earlier on this hour of places like Germany and the Netherlands lay out their stalls, but we'll have the leaders of those countries having a really big summit that's taking place on Wednesday in Brussels. It'll be the first time that we'll hear face-to-face what they have to say to David Cameron. Of course, he's not going to be the man who's going to be steering the UK through this process. That's another big unknown. Who will be taking up the baton, taking up the helm of the Conservative Party? There'll be a leadership contest. There's so much to play for here. So hopefully some people in the market saying, well, we'll see some stability before we get any indications of where we go from here, because the reality is that the UK may have, as I was saying before, decided to leave, but it hasn't yet moved forward on that particular pledge. And any twists and turns of the stories over the next couple of weeks, that is what the markets will be trading from here. When it comes to the currency markets for the pound, remember the UK is a really big part of currency trading. 41% of the world's FX trades come through London, so people will be keeping a very close eye on that. The pound is likely to be affected, perhaps even may come under pressure, as of course will UK stocks.
OK, Lynda dos Santos, we'll leave it there for now. Live for us from London. Thank you very much. Well, Scotland is taking steps to potentially break from Britain and protect its standing in the EU. The country overwhelmingly voted to remain in the European Union. Its First Minister says the government could make that a reality despite Britain's vote. Well, we're going to bring in David McKenzie, who's live for us in Edinburgh. David, Scotland's leader put it pretty bluntly when she said that it was democratically unacceptable that Scotland faced the prospect of being taken out of the EU when it doesn't wish to be. What's the next step?
Well, that's right. They're saying that, well, that's right. And Nicola Sturgeon is known as a very astute, powerful politician in the UK. And she's saying that it's unfair that when Scots voted overwhelmingly to stay in the European Union, that they will be forced out, in her words, out of the Union because of English voters. She said one of her ways to deal with that is to talk directly to EU diplomats.
We will seek to enter into immediate discussions with the EU institutions and with other EU member states to explore all possible options to protect Scotland's place in the EU. In doing so, we are determined to draw on as much support and advice from across Scotland as possible.
And the other issue on the table, and as she said it's very much on the table, is a possible referendum here again. It's the second since 2014 on independence in Scotland. Now, the Scottish National Party, which she leads, their reason for being is to eventually try and get independence for Scotland. This presents her with an opportunity. The chaos in Westminster, the Leave campaign unexpectedly winning, presents an opportunity politically for the Scottish National Party to try and push that referendum vote. But her timing is crucial, and she has this window of opportunity potentially between when Edwin Cameron eventually steps down in October. Lynda?
And David, from the people you've been speaking to, what are they telling you about their concerns and their fears for the future?
Well, almost universally, the people I've spoken to here in Edinburgh have been saying they wanted to stay in the EU. That obviously lines up with the numbers in the voting process. We actually spoke to some veterans of a Scottish regiment. Today is Armed Services Day in the UK. These are elderly gentlemen who were in the UK military, would sort of be the textbook people to, according to the rest of the UK, who would want to leave the Union. Take a listen to what they and their supporters had to say.
We don't want to split for the Union. We've no choice. It's all down to that. Sorry, I'm not being biased here. It's all down to English.
I'm worried because I just hope they've got a good life. My grandson wanted to travel the world, and I just hope he'll be able to travel the world.
So there is a sense that the old sort of rivalry between Scotland and England has been pronounced, and the fingers being pointed directly from here south to English voters, blaming them for potentially forcing Scotland out of the EU. Lynda?
OK, David McKenzie, we'll leave it there for now. Live for us from Edinburgh. Thank you. Well, still to come, from Brexit to re-Grexit, a petition in the UK to hold a second referendum is gaining steam. We'll show you the numbers after the break.